What is cohesion? What are the disadvantages of not using cohesion in your code? What is the cost if your code is uncohesive? Then we will discuss the relationship between modularity and cohesion. Next, we will discuss the strategies how to make your code more cohesive. What is the difference between cohesion and coupling? This is one of the most asked questions in technical interviews. Finally, we'll discuss it's not just important that your code is cohesive, it's also important your team is cohesive, humans are cohesive. So I will put the chapter information down. You can skip to any chapter anytime. So let's discuss what is cohesion. Cohesion in computer science engineering is defined the degree to which elements in the module belong together. Kent Beck said, pull away the things if they are unrelated. Put the things together if they are related. This is a half joke, but it is very true. But it is very true about software. What is good software architecture and design? It is about compartmentalizing your code. It is about creating nice boundaries. It's about creating your code into manageable pieces that can be tested, validated, deployed fast. Lot of time we think, oh, if we have in last video we discussed modularity, and a lot of time we think, okay, we put our code in different files, our code is cohesive. Guys, just because we have put codes in different files, just because we our code is modular, it doesn't mean our code is cohesive. Are we putting code in the right solution, right project, right file? Are we putting business code in business layer? Are we putting data access layer in data access? Are we putting the code which should are we putting code which should belong to finance application in sales application? So let's talk what is the cost of uncohesive code. If we are putting a code which should go to sales application into finance application, the maintenance is going to be hard. Tomorrow we are going to make changes in sales and unintended consequences are going to happen in the finances. If the code is uncohesive, the code is being put into places where it's not doesn't belong, it's difficult to track, it's difficult to modify, bugs are to come bugs are going to come into production, you are going to miss deadlines, you are going to have buggy software in the production. So that is the cost of uncohesive code. How to make our code cohesive? How to identify our code is uncohesive? Here you have to think about all the smells, agile smells. The first thing, we have to respect the architecture of the application. How many times people write a function where they are getting the code from the database, they are manipulating it, putting inside a string with the presentation, and then saving stuff. Everything happening in one function. This is example of uncohesive code. The presentation layer should go to presentation logic. The business logic should go to business layer. Data access logic should go to data layer. I was working on an application. It has nice architecture. You have very defined business layer, data access layer, and the business layer and data access layer was talking through web services because they wanted to protect their databases by just exposing the HTTP port. And I thought, oh my god, this is the amazing architecture. How you can bypass this kind of architecture? Your data access layer is behind the service. Now you have to respect the architecture. I was so wrong. When I opened application, I found there were certain reports. They were written in the data access layer. The guy put a comment that he doesn't have time to put code in proper layers, proper tiers, and he just wrote a big function with 3000 lines of code which was getting the data from the database. Then he was in the string, he was putting all the presentation logic, and string he was moving from data access layer to business layer to presentation layer, and all the presentation layer and business layer, they were doing just moving a string and presenting to the users. And when we have to rewrite the application, there came an opportunity where we have to support multiple languages like Chinese, Japanese, Russian. So we have to rewrite the whole application because of reports like this. These reports like this cost millions to the company just because some programmer wanted to save 4 hours. So that is first smell. If the next thing is, you should follow domain driven design. Domain driven design is you design your applications, your classes according to the domain of your business. If you have invoices, business concept in your domain, you create invoice class in your project. If you're working for sales department, you make sure that, and you're building application for the sales, you make sure all the your code goes to the applications, to the files that belongs to the sales department. There is a concept called bounded concept. There is a concept called bounded contest. I have made so many videos. To me, this concept is so simple. What is bounded contest? Bounded contest is, if you have an invoice in sales domain, it is different entity than sales in
Invoice in
finance.
finance.
So this way you don't care, okay, whether your invoice class gonna affect anything in the sales. This way you don't care. If you make changes to your invoice class, you can modify invoice class according to your needs in sales domain. You don't care about finance domain. Both concepts, invoice in sales and finance, they can involve independently. And this is such a simple concept. I have been asked to explain this concept again, again, and again. So this, again, the boarding contest makes sure your code is cohesive. You're not worrying too much details which doesn't belong to your domain. Another thing is, you have to follow single responsibility principle. Single responsibility principle, your function should be small. Your project should be supporting one idea. If you are writing project to support PDF, the code to modify Excel should not go there. You are making code to be readable to yourself, to other humans. So it's very important that you create cohesive code where the code that belongs together resides together, so that it's easy for you to make changes. If you have to modify data access invoice, you should know that you have to go to the data access project and modify it there. So let's talk what is the relation between cohesion and coupling. This is one of the most asked question in design in technical interviews. Coupling is how tightly your code is coupled to another. If you change line A, do you have to change line B? That is called coupling. And cohesion is, okay, if you are making change in A, function A, it makes sense to change function B or some other code in the line. That is cohesive code. If you are making change, if you are adding some new elements to the invoice screen, okay, you have to modify your business object, you have to modify your data access layer, you have to modify your presentation layer. So it makes sense. It is example of cohesive code. And suppose your coupling is, suppose you have a presentation layer. Can you change your presentation layer from Angular to React? So coupling should be light. There will be always some couplings. Presentation layer has to pass some information to business layer, take some information from the business layer. So coupling should be low, but the cohesion of the code should be more. One problem is, there is no absolute terms about cohesion and coupling. It's very subjective. You have to decide whether your code is cohesive. Here comes less smelly the code is, more cohesive the code, more cohesive your code is going to be. So cohesion is good. Cohesion, your application should be more cohesive. Coupling is bad. The application, your presentation layer and data access layer should be lightly coupled. You should be lightly coupled to other applications. You should be using interfaces instead of concrete classes. So tomorrow the implementation can change. You are coding against interfaces. So finally, it's very important. There's a good. Let's talk about cohesion about human beings, among programmers, among teams. According to some DevOps reports, they have figured out they can measure your productivity. One of the key measures to assess your productivity is how much deployment you are doing. Is your team cohesive? Is your team independent? Can your team deploy your code without interacting, without taking feedback, without depending on other teams, other other departments? How fast you can take the decisions? So friends, today we discuss what is cohesion, what is relationship between modularity and cohesion, what is the cost of uncohesive code, how what are the design principles and techniques to make sure that your code is cohesive. Then we discussed what is the relationship between cohesion and coupling, and finally we discussed why coupling is important even for the teams, for the humans. So friends, if you like this video, watch my other videos in modern software engineering playlist. Also like it, share it and subscribe to my channel for your regular updates. Connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially LinkedIn if you like small summaries of the video. I will be posting a lot of small summaries of video on LinkedIn. Thanks again.